Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another video here on Free Will Photos. Today, I want to show you a really cool technique of being able to blur the background and isolating a subject. Now, this is something that I've seen a lot of people doing on YouTube using Photoshop, but inside of ON1 Photo RAW, because we have the ability to work in layers, we can do this all inside of one program. And so that's what I want to show you today. Now, of course, if you like to pick up ON1 Photo RAW, save a little bit of money in the process, consider using my coupon code FreeWillPhotos20. It is an affiliate coupon. I do make a commission from everyone who uses it, but it's at no extra cost to you. It's actually a way for you to save money, so it's a win-win on everyone's account. Let's go ahead and jump into the computer and take a look at how we can create these blurry backgrounds when isolating a subject. So here we are inside of the computer, and right away you could probably see the problem that I'm having. This is a very distracting background, and there wasn't really much I could do in camera in order to get a out of focus blurry background. And so I do have to create that in post-production. And the thing that's really driving me crazy is like this long, tall piece of grass sticking out behind the bird there. So I'll show you the way that a lot of people try to make this particular look on their photos. And then I'll show you the way that I'm actually going to recommend that you at least are aware of knowing how to do. And so we'll come over here to effects. We're going to click add filter and then click on blur. And that goes over the entire image. Now, you'll click on the masking thumbnail and you'll come over to the quick mask AI and you'll let the ON1 kind of read the image. And then once it does, you just hover over all the parts that you want to have the blur not impact, right? So this is roughly everything minus the bird. And then you just hit the blue check mark and this should solve the problem. And so you can see just from looking around the edges, it's not very clean. And, if you want to increase the blur, it just gets even more unrealistic and just not as desirable. It doesn't look all that good. So this is the problem that we want to fix. Right now, what the blur is doing is it's looking at the edges of the area that was actually being selected, and it's including those in the blur decision. So we just want to remove that. And that's where this new powerful technique comes into play. And so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this blur because we don't need it there. And I am going to come up to the top layer and I'm going to duplicate the layer by clicking on this little double sheet of paper. This has now created two layers for me. I'm going to double click just to rename these so it's a little bit easier for us to follow along. So I'm going to double click here and I am going to rename this. Instead of layer, we'll call this background, and then we'll call the top one subject. So now that we have our layers renamed, it's time to start the work. So I'm going to turn off the layer that I titled subject, and I want to click on my layer titled BG. And on this layer, I actually want to remove the bird and the perch completely from here. And so I'm only left with a background. And so to do that, I'm going to come over here to my retouching group. And then I'm going to click on this drop down and I want to select the perfect eraser. I happen to already have it selected, but if you don't, I recommend the perfect eraser for backgrounds that look like this. And it also helps you keep a little bit of that fidelity. Now, of course, you could use the generative eraser as well because we're going to be blurring this background. So you can use either one and you figure out which one makes the most sense for your photo. But for today, I'm just going to use the perfect eraser. And all I'm going to do is paint over the perch because I want to get rid of it. Seems a little counterproductive or counterintuitive to get rid of the thing that we actually want to keep in focus. But if you stay with me, you'll see where this goes. And so I've selected everything. I'm just going to let go with my mouse. ON1 is going to find stuff to actually replace that area with. And it does a really good job, at least good enough for a background, right? So this to me still looks very organic. And now what I can do is turn on my upper layer that says subject because we want to actually cut out the bird from this particular layer. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the BG layer. So that way, when we cut out the bird, we'll see that transparent background. And so what I'm going to do is click on the masking property thumbnail, if you will. And when I click on that, it brings up the actual masking properties. Now, I'm going to come over here to mask layers and use the little plus icon. This is a personal preference. I like to work this way. However, you could come up here to where it says more and click on quick mask AI. So, but for me, I'm just going to come down here and click mask layers and then come to quick mask AI. And now that I have that selected, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the bird, and then I'm going to change this over to paint, the blue check mark, to commit that. Now, at first glance, this actually didn't do what we wanted it to do. And the reason for that is because on this particular layer, we need to kind of get the inverse of everything. And so what I'm going to do is come to quick mask AI for the mask layers, click the 3-line menu, and then I'm going to come down to mode and change it over to subtract. And so when it's set to subtract, you can see that it has now successfully cut out the bird. Now, I could spend time to clean up these edges. I'm not going to do that in today's tutorial, but it is worthwhile to sit around and clean up the edges using the refine mask section here, using the levels tool to really get that a little bit more fine-tuned. But I'm not going to do that today. All right. Instead, what we're going to do is turn on our background layer, and you can probably see where this is going. So now that I have my bird back on the background, I need to click on my background layer, and I'm going to come over to the effects section, which I'm already in. I'm going to hit add filter, and then you can add any blur that you want. This time, I'm just going to use the regular blur tool, but you could use a lens blur. And you can see by default, we're already getting a much better result. Let me go ahead and zoom in here, just so that way you can see around the edges, we don't have that blooming happening. And again, I can clean up this particular mask to make it a little bit more sharp. And I do recommend that you take the time to do that. But the point is, I wanted to show you the technique of cutting out a subject and putting it on its own layer, and then using the background in order to apply all of your effects. And so now I can treat this like a normal photo, where if I want to darken that background, which probably doesn't look the greatest, but you get the point. Now I have the ability to just kind of work seamlessly. And if I want to go crazy with the blur and just like completely obliterate that background, I could do so. Just like that. I know that I went over a lot of stuff today, and we used an advanced technique called compositing, and we also use layers inside of ON1 Photo RAW. That can be a little intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. If you want to learn how to use ON1 Photo RAW, one of the best ways that I can recommend to learn to use the software is to sign up for a training call with me. A link for that can be found in the description box below. You can bring all of your questions, your own images to the training call, and I will help you learn the software, or at least the things that you are the most interested in learning about the software. I also record all of the training sessions, and so you'll get a copy of that recording, and you'll be able to follow along and rewatch it as you start working on your own projects when our meeting is over. If that's something you're interested in, consider signing up for a call today, and I'd love to help walk you through using ON1 Photo RAW. With that being said, until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.